So, in a previous video, we talked about the importance of problem posing education, and it really ties into how AP Capstone teachers have to instruct. Our job as teachers in AP Capstone is not to provide students the answers, but to help them build better questions and provide them the skills to find the answers. So let's review again what AP Capstone is. It's a 2-year journey, and first it starts with AP Seminar, which is the prerequisite, and ends with AP Research. And that is where the students really start to develop their own research, whereas in AP Seminar, they start to understand what it is to research. So a philosophy of Capstone is that one size fits none. And because of that, we're looking at how students can actually apply what they already understand, what they already are interested in, to have self led discovery. And it's not a predetermined pathway. And so, what we as teachers do is provide a map and a compass, not a necessary itinerary or content to help them do that. So the blueprint for AP Capstone is the Quest framework. And in the Quest framework, we have Question and Explore, which challenges boundaries and considers different perspectives. We have Understand and Analyze, which contextualizes arguments and helps students comprehend claims. We evaluate multiple perspectives and consider varied viewpoints, synthesize ideas in which we help students combine knowledge into a new argument, and then team transform and transmit, which is basically where we're looking at the collaborative, reflective, and communicative aspects of learning. And in all of these processes, the learning is recursive. It's not linear. Students will constantly go back to look at different skills and how they can apply it to new information or their research. So, again, we have the 5 big ideas, and so we apply those to both courses. So, we have capstone projects, and both of these classes are year-long courses. We have for AP Seminar Performance Task 1, which is the TMP and the IRR. We have Performance Task 2, which is the individual research, individual written argument, and I am an individual multimedia presentation. And then we have the end of course exam, which has a part A and part B. For AP Research, we have the year-long academic paper and the um, presentation and oral defense. So again, the goal is authentic inquiry, and it's not just a collection of information. So it's a recursive process. We are consistently questioning, seeking new information, and refining our approaches. This is something that happens in real research. This is something that should be happening in one's life as a lifelong learner. We always regularly revisit our ideas, reconsider, refine, and students develop informed perspectives, not just derivative ideas and based off of the existing material. They find new ideas and create new understanding. So, what do we as teachers of this course do? Well, you are not the content expert. You are the guide to the process. I like to think of myself in the classroom as their project manager. It's your job as a teacher to design a framework in which you provide the tools and guide the process. All of this is a student-led inquiry, and you, as the teacher, are helping them develop the skills to be able to um, again, answer the questions that they're seeking to answer. Your expertise is managing the research journey, teaching critical skills, and monitoring the process. It is not your job to know every aspect of the specifics of every student's topic. So, there are specific roles of teachers that are outlined in both the CEDs of AP Seminar and AP Research. The teacher role is to teach and reinforce skills. You are engaging in whole class teaching of skills pertinent to research and presentation of student work. You are monitoring their progress. You are having meetings with checkpoints or with the prep conferences to make sure that students are following on a timeline that will allow them to meet the goals in a timely manner. You are asking them questions so that they can be reflective of their process. You're guiding them with exemplars such as student examples, high performance student examples, and research rubrics. Have students annotate and understand what the expectations are that are being provided with the rubrics. You're enabling peer review. Have students help each other. It's okay to have students give the feedback to other students, and it also helps you because if they are truly knowledgeable about the expectations via the rubrics and looking at exemplars, they are able to give each other feedback that you are not allowed to give. You can uh, look at or suggest certain databases or what places to explore. For example, if a student is uh, trying to figure out where can they find these things, you're teaching them how to find academic or government or reliable or credible resources. You may not point directly to where they can find a source, but you're teaching them how to seek out that information in order to answer those questions in an academic manner. And then you manage assessment. Ensure the students are aware of the timelines and the criteria. Monitor submissions. You're scoring the presentations. You're affirming authenticity, and you're making sure you are keeping those things documented and progress monitoring in the digital portfolio. So what don't you do? You do not assign, provide, or generate research questions. You do not conduct research or provide specific sources, articles, or evidence for students. You make sure that the work is authentic. Do not write, revise, amend, correct any part of the final work. Do not provide specific direct feedback that tells students what to do. Do not proofread or copy edit student work. Do not identify the exact oral defense questions the student will be asked. So, how do we do this pedagogically? So, some instructional strategies that are suggested are doing QFT technique, teaching students how to actually generate research questions, having students do personal research, look at how they organize their thoughts, have peer reviews, do workshops, have students do short presentations, have other students ask critical questions, do poster presentation, have peer review for feasibility and alignment, have students look at and create annotated bibliographies in which they are evaluating the sources and how they apply to their actual research. So, how do we do this for different students? And in any classroom, you're going to have students of varying abilities. And that is something that actually adds the depth of this course. So how do we do that? We look at pacing. We look at enrichment. How do we help students go beyond the facts? Do we just give them examples? Can we give them guides, such as like templates or other exemplars to help them figure out how to take their ideas from point A to point B? Encourage students to build on their original knowledge and express creative ways to express academically. Um, using help students create sophisticated connections. Help them have conversations about topics for different perspectives. Have them confront different perspectives. And again, always help students with you can also help students figure out how to use tools that can help them develop their writing, uh, deepen their understanding of text. And these are things that are accepted in acceptable use and ethical use of AI, other additional resources that are provided by the College Board. These are things that will help students be successful. So, how do we differentiate using this framework? Be proactive. Planning lessons that address the learner from the outset. Identifying learning objectives early. Uh, Being able to do that will allow you to differentiate and see where students need support or further guidance, or looking at ways to approach things that may have misconceptions. Organized by units. Look at the goals in certain sections. Chunk. So structuring. the units that way is a helpful approach to help students not only uh, master each skill, but also look at it in a cohesive way when they are assessed later. Balanced teacher assigned and student selected tasks. Having students and teachers collaborate on learning and using flexible grouping is a best practice. And be purposeful with your time. Use assessment data to justify decisions. And when we look at assessment, we're looking at simple assessments, not necessarily looking at the assessment of the actual AP score. We're looking at assignments. We're looking at your conversations and your checkpoints or reflections in the prep journal. How do we revisit these things? How do we ask questions? How do we reteach where needed, but not necessarily uh, give students the answers? So, a good way to plan is to always look backward. I try to advise teachers to look at how many students and how many groups or how many things how much time will you actually need to have to score, complete, and record presentations. Consider the testing schedule, considering how much time your students may be pulled out of class. And these are things that you should consider as you're building your calendar. When do these things need to be done generally, and have these conversations on the outset with your administrator so that they can support you in getting things done in a timely manner. Same thing with AP research. Look at how many students you have, how many research, how much, then you may have to be recursive in the sense that you may have students who do more or less human based research. And these are things that you need to consider in your timeline as well. How much time will be needed for your presentations? How many students will be doing these things? Are there people who are going to be using outside experts? These are things that you need to think of as you're planning for the year. So if we were kind of looking at this structure, some of the ways that a teacher may plan, maybe on Monday they do skill focus and they do a mini lesson on basic thing that we are going to be focusing on for this week. And then Tuesday, maybe you do workshop or student time where students apply that skill to the ongoing performance task. And then teachers are maybe monitoring progress, conferring with groups, and maybe giving some peer review, collaboration, and things to consider um, on the following week. And then later in the week, they reflect on how well they did. Another thing that is important, use exemplars and rubrics to guide these processes so that students have a complete understanding of what the expectations are and what they need to be striving to achieve. So, your role as a teacher is not to build their final project. It is to design a robust, supportive, and challenging environment where they can become the architects of their own knowledge. You provide the grid, the tools, the building codes, and they create the unique, impressive structures that populate the city. Thank you.